Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dagger for.
I knew as soon as you said another episode, I was like, he's gonna say Dagger.
We can keep that if you want. I don't even care. You're just cracking up.
Whew,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, you can tell someone's sleep deprived.
Uh, you, right?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that's me.
Mhm.
How are you today, Sarah?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. I'm glad we brought Dagger into this because there's a few daggers actually involved in this discussion today.
It's fitting.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say it fits like inside of someone, but there wasn't any stabbing with them.
No, I guess not.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, I guess like the Harfoots stab some things, but
There was like some stabbing motions.
yeah, they like stab some foots. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, gosh, all right. So we're
Mhm.
talking. Sorry for the mild spoilers there, guys. So let's see. Tonight we're covering, and thank God we're finally going to have this show actually decrease in volume in terms of how many things we're talking about.
Yeah,
What are we doing? We're talking about and this is all gonna be time stamped too, guys. So
yeah.
keep that in mind. Um, because Sarah's awesome for doing that. Let's see. Dragon Show,
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk, Andor.
Yep. And then Rings of Power.
Yeah. It's a lot of shows, and now we'll only have two shows after this.
It's a little bit more manageable.
It's been a lot,
Mm-hmm.
honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, they've all been good. Well, until they weren't, but we'll talk about that.
Right. Yikes.
Yeah,
Sad.
it's pretty
Oh.
sad.
D-
Uh, what's that?
I was gonna say, do you just want to start there?
Sure. Do we have any news?
I didn't see any. I like kind of glanced. Didn't see a ton.
Yeah, I haven't been looking for news at all. I've been barely staying afloat with
Yeah.
watching all the shows. Like literally today, I watched I watched all of them but Andor today. I'd already watched Andor, but
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, yeah, it was just a long day full of shows.
I keep
Uh,
I keep checking for Wheel of Time season 2 news, and there's still nothing.
oh, I think there was like a little teaser trailer. I just haven't watched yet. I've been denying myself.
They had some new footage at New York Comic Con, so maybe that's promising.
Yeah, there's a picture of Moraine in it, so hey,
Yeah.
we know that she's in episode or in season two.
Right. So, goody. That's
Hmm?
all we know.
Oh, from looking at the thumbnail, that's all I know.
Yeah. uh,
I
so
assume Rand is in there somewhere.
assume it'll be next year.
Sure, yeah, just follow. When in doubt, just follow your assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, follow Sarah's assumptions.
Some problems.
So, yeah, we could just jump in if you want.
Yeah. Let's talk about She-Hulk.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how the people listening to this. You could tell me in our Discord server. Go join our Discord server. Let me know how much more awake I sound at the end of this podcast than at the start. Because I was waiting for Sarah. She got started a little bit later than me on Rings of Power, and while I was waiting, I literally like fell asleep for a while, and I randomly woke up right as
Mhm.
she was like saying, "Yeah, let's go." But I almost just like no showed entirely. I almost just fell asleep on the couch. So, you guys will have to let me know.
if,
I'm
if you
drinking
sound awake.
caffeine. Well, yeah, we'll see if I wake up, or I might just fall asleep mid show. We'll see.
Oh man.
That Sarah can just do a really long monologue.
Okay.
That's probably what most people want, anyways. So, all right, She Hulk, episode 9.
Yeah.
It's the finale. The
Mm-hmm.
show lasted a really long time
Yeah, it was nine episodes.
compared to all the other Marvel ones. It
True.
was it was an extra three, and I feel like it just I don't know, they just like ran out of things. She made a lot of references to banging Matt Murdock, which is a little bit funny at least.
Mm-hmm. Um, man, I was watching this episode, and as I was watching it, I was like, okay, it's. I actually enjoyed the fact that they had this like house arrest bracelet on her, and she couldn't use her powers, because I was like, great, like now she actually wants to use them and she can't. Like this is opposite of where the season started. Like I think that's kind of cool. And
Mm-hmm.
then I felt like it just went off a cliff.
Yeah, well, I honestly I was like, oh, this seems to be headed okay. Like I saw some of the comments, like the non, I didn't really understand any of the comments. Like in the Discord, people were talking about it a little bit, and no
Mm-hmm.
one was like super specific, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was like, this isn't as bad as everyone says, and then it just like
Went
that
there.
there's just like so long of a what period like
Right. I was watching it on a computer, so like on a web browser. And when it had like that really weird cut to the Disney Plus interface, I literally like moved my mouse and was like, "What the heck just happened?" Like I thought it cut out, and I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, okay, we're still watching the episode." It was jarring, and I get that it's wanting to be funny and like it's breaking the fourth wall and everything, and I
I
think
feel like this is breaking the fifth wall.
this was excessive.
I thought that they were trying to be real meta and cute about things, and it just didn't pull it off. I was like Kevin Bot or whatever, like clearly like Kevin Feige or however you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's like a play on like he's a machine or like he's got the formula, but he's continually pumping out the cool stuff. But you know, I gave a little bit of commentary on what you know
Well,
their
and like
self-awareness.
I feel like you could have had that commentary
Mm-hmm.
without that whole thing happening. Like you could have just had the show continuing and have Jennifer Walters provide that, because she's been doing that this whole time. She's been breaking the fourth wall and adding these little like cheeky remarks that
Right.
you could have her add that cheeky like, really, you're gonna get superpowers? Nah, let's stomp that out right now. And like,
Right.
you know,
Well,
she could be the one
yeah.
that's doing it, not, yeah, I don't know.
Well, she like there was one time that she's like, "No, I demand that you put the previously on screen up," and
Mm-hmm.
so they did.
Right, exactly. So you could have her doing it in the episode without this like breaking away from it thing. You could have her like if Daredevil were to show up again, you could have her be like, "Okay, great. When are the X-Men coming though?" Like you could have her add these little, because I
Right.
thought that line was funny, like that question about when are we getting the X-Men, and like the wink to the camera kind of thing. Like
Right.
that was humorous, and I would keep that, but not in the context of how it was done.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I feel like if they had just made it last for like 2 minutes, it would have been a lot better. But it was like the
Right.
whole show almost. Like it kept going and
Yeah.
go like and there's like a whole scene with her stomping down a corridor fighting guards. I'm like, why do we need to see that? Like, who cares at all?
Yeah. I just it it
Also,
it pulled me out of the show.
way out. Yeah. I was like, okay,
I just
it
yeah
made me excited to not watch She-Hulk season 2 if they have one.
it was just really odd. I feel like I don't know. I just feel like you had a really quirky, cool thing going, and then I, when you like overanalyze something, or you're working on a project or something, and you just keep perfecting it to the point that you end up ruining it. Like, you make it worse than how
Yeah.
it started because you keep nitpicking it. I feel like it started really cool, and then they had this like really funny idea, and they kept adding things to it, and then it just snowballed.
Hmm. See, I don't actually. I said yeah, but I don't. I'm like, yeah, it's usually better after I've tinkered with it for a while.
Uh,
Maybe that was the problem. They didn't tinker with it enough.
Sometimes you just have to leave well enough alone.
Or maybe you should come up with a better idea instead of the first half-brained, stupid ass thing that comes along. The writer's like, guys, what if we really broke the fourth wall? And everyone's like, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
And they
know.
kept making cracks about this is cheaper. Like they said that so many times.
Right. Which, well, I mean, is
Let's
funny
do the cheaper.
because, like,
Sure.
but you don't need to do it in excess.
But they said it multiple times. I was like, one time was enough, thank you.
Yeah. So, I don't know. This was definitely the least favorite episode. And then the ending just felt really mashed together. Like it felt messy.
Oh, it was. So I was like, oh, okay. So she's admitting she needs some time to herself. She needs a mental health break. Like I was like, oh, this is cool. Like this is leading to the episode that I liked the best.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe she were gonna see some growth. And then I also thought it was incredibly disingenuous of her
Mm-hmm.
too, of like she's like, I just want to see Emil Blonsky like take some ownership.
Right.
But she also broke the law. She signed an agreement to not take her She-Hulk thing off.
Right.
And just because she thinks she's being wrongly charged, she's made that agreement. That was part of her deal. And she never faced any consequences for that. In fact, how was she acquitted? The things that she did she's not just exonerated because some mean people were trying to get her. Like she still took the action she did, and she was arrested for those things.
Mm-hmm.
It should be, those things should coexist at the same time as she's suing these people.
Maybe the writers forgot to write it in when they were erasing all of the other things.
Yeah, I was just like, why? I mean, she's like, yeah, I just want Emil Blonsky to take ownership or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, good. You want him to take ownership? Maybe you should take ownership too for doing the exact same thing he did.
But like that's why
taking the ankle bracelet off.
I feel like it was so messy because you go back into this episode afterwards when she's like, no, we're gonna do this instead and whatever. And then like nothing really happens. Like Todd is just not transforming, and everyone shows up at the end, and she carries on to, like, it doesn't feel resolved. It just is like, here's the ending.
Yeah, and hey, Matt Murdock is here for a while.
It just felt very slapped together.
Uh-huh.
So, I don't know. I'm a little bit disappointed.
Oh, an ending like that? Yeah, I think everyone is. I think that was just total crap.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I think they could have done a lot better.
Yeah, I just like, she's like, let's just change the setting and change, like, apparently they had all the confrontation stuff. Mm-hmm. Like all the dramatic stuff happened off camera, and it's just in the daylight and it's over. Cool. Right. Like I thought it was kind of fun. Like one of the parts that I did like about it was I keep forgetting his name. The only guy who's actually cool in this whole show besides Hulk. Mm-hmm. What's his name?
I can't remember his name either, but I think I know who you're talking about.
Like the guy who's wearing like the earbud thing.
Yeah.
He goes in there, and I kind of thought it was. I mean, they really they did the whole like males are dumb thing, like, oh, you have to use female, you have to make sure, and it's just like a bunch of dudes, like they're all like, no females. you
I,
know
I will say in that part, I actually laughed when the just because of how it was juxtaposed. I thought it was hilarious. But one guy was saying like, and I'm not saying this because she's female. I would say this about her if she was a man too. And he like has this thing, and then you hear the
right.
other guy reply with, "Yeah, she's just too emotional." And I was like, I had like literally laughed at my desk because I was like, that is kind of hilarious. That was probably that, and the X-Men comment were probably the two highlights of the whole episode for me.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't totally devoid of any good. She's like so aware. She's so self-aware of her show, but she's not self-aware of herself.
Which, I mean, it's kind of frustrating because I feel like, especially when this episode was starting, it was really nice to see that she wanted to be able to use her powers, and she was like, great.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of what she even has that moment in her childhood bedroom where she's like, this is what I asked for, but I don't, like, she doesn't want that anymore, right? And it was really nice to see that, and then it just went downhill.
Yeah.
I feel
Right.
like you could have taken that whole start of it and had more character growth, like you're saying, and more ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like, so she's the one who's like, yeah, I am so in control, and then she loses control, and then she never actually faces that.
Right.
She never faces that she was out of control. Like, she's just saved by the fact that, hey, look at this. I just happened to go to a retreat where they're having, I'm like, go do an R&R at the same place that they're having their hate conference for me. Not to mention, like, it's her show, and yet, like, everyone, like, all these guys get together just to talk about how awful she is. Like,
I feel like I also had like more questions because I'm like, well, why did you make Intelligentsia? Like, what do you guys do other than hate on women? Apparently, I feel like that was the accelerated, like, adult version of the He-Man Woman Haters Club from Little Rascals.
I don't remember that very much, but
So disappointed.
hmm.
So disappointed. This was like
One of them's name was Alfalfa, right?
yeah. This was like the R-rated version, and then you have like the little, anyway, it doesn't matter. It didn't land, fine.
I remember there was a Berenstein Bear book when I was growing up that all the boys went and made a fort and said girls aren't allowed or whatever. No girls allowed.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, that fort looks pretty cool.
I will say I do feel a little bit bad because I still do think Tatiana Maslany is a really good actress. And
Sure.
I mean, I feel like she also did like show that pretty well. And
I liked her.
I just think what I have decided is you just need to watch Orphan Black.
I was actually going to suggest if we ever have a time where it's slow, let's go through Orphan Black.
Yeah, because I think you would really enjoy that more. And then also, I think you will really understand why I think she's such a good actress, and you'll be able to like enjoy her acting skills a lot better.
I had no issues with her. I thought it was really interesting, actually, that like, so they always portrayed her as like, yeah, she's not that attractive, and they made a real big deal about how, like, basically how unattractive she is, or how middle of the road or whatever. And I was always like, well, I mean, I guess that's like one of the conceits that they have to have, that it's just like everyone has to believe that because I always thought the whole time that she was attractive. So
I did notice the parallel though between when she's Jennifer Walters and when she's She-Hulk. When she's Jennifer Walters, she has her natural curly hair, and when she's She-Hulk, it's like straightened and lengthened out. And I was like, that is a very interesting She-Hulk, because they keep, exactly what you said, they keep making this commentary about how, like, she's not attractive as Jennifer Walters, and then people want to be with the She-Hulk, and it's a whole different type thing. And that was the, like, biggest thing that I noticed, other than obviously the fact that she's, like, big and green, but it was her hair difference.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, actually. I thought, I don't know, it was overall, the show was very, I was gonna say middle of the road. I would say a little bit below average, frankly. Like, do I regret having watched it? Not really. Like, maybe I'd watch the second season, but this show pretty quickly put itself on the back burner for me.
Yeah.
And the finale did nothing to dispel that. Like, sometimes finales just knock it out of the park, and you're like, oh,
Right.
all right, that was pretty cool. And some of them that this was out with a whimper. Like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for not making the finale an hour.
Yeah, it was, yeah, the finale did not do it any favors.
Well, enough of that then.
Yeah. All right, so neither of us liked it. Awesome.
Well, so hold on. Someone in chat was saying that Daredevil's getting a new show or something.
Ooh, I should look that up. I didn't realize that he was.
I don't know if he is. I thought I'd read that, but I was also I was just trying to skim the chat because that was before I'd actually watched it. So, I mean, I think that this is pretty solidly showing, like, hey, he's in the MCU now. Like, he's part of it, even if he's just like the side piece for her or whatever. I guess he could be the main piece, whatever. But
okay, yeah. He is getting a new show, Daredevil Born Again, and it's supposed to start in spring of 2024.
Okay, so that's like they're starting shooting now-ish or something.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's cool. I never watched the Netflix show of it, but I did watch a couple episodes, but nothing much. Anyways, so sayonara to She-Hulk. I feel like we should, like, say at some point we should start saying, like, what our favorite moments in a show was. Maybe we could start that next episode. We could just give just a little bit of an end of totality and end of thing review after we've had a week to contemplate.
Okay, that's fair to digest.
Yeah.
All right. Do you wanna talk about Dragon Show?
Sure. An interesting show. New change of cast.
Again.
Is that messing with you?
It is really annoying me, to be honest with you. I don't. It makes it hard for me to care about the characters when they keep changing who's playing them, and I'm like, and I actually was reading this really interesting article about it today because they were talking about, they need to do it because they're moving forward so many years, so you need to really show that they've aged and all of this. And I'm like, okay, you didn't, and this was the flaw that they pointed out. So this isn't my pointing it out. This was in the article that I read, and I completely agree with it. You're aging, you age Rhaenyra, you age Alicent, you age their kids twice. You don't age Daemon. You don't age Sir Criston Cole. Same actor.
Yeah, but he's already an adult.
But so what? He was barely an adult.
Yeah. Well,
it just seems weird that they're picking and choosing who to age, and it's making it very annoying for me to be like, who are you again? Right. Like, Aemond, I knew because you only have one eye, so how can I forget you? But I'm like, who are you? Okay, right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Aemond, he's supposed to be the younger of the two, right?
I think yes, he's the younger. Aegon is the older one.
He looked significantly older.
He did.
than his brother, honestly.
He did look older. Um, I mean, so other than them aging them, though, I actually enjoyed this episode. I thought it was good.
Sure. Oh yeah, I there were a lot of things. I mean, I always talk about like why watch a show about a bunch of people I hate,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like they actually did things that I didn't hate sometimes this episode.
Yeah. Um,
Like, oh go ahead.
I was gonna say, Viserys is still there, barely.
Yeah, but I think he was the most powerful in all of it. Honestly, I thought he was one of
Oh,
the most interesting.
I thought, yes, I agree with you. I do think he like stood his ground, considering the fact that he. It was really hard for. Okay, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. It was really hard for me to take Viserys seriously. Like I had to digest it and then think about what his character actually did, because the entire time I was just staring at him and I was like, "You look like you are about to leave this series and walk onto the Walking Dead set." Like, I was like, "You just look terrible. Like you literally look like you're on death's door right now. It is so bad." And then when they had that half mask thing, I was like, "Oh, it's the Phantom of the Opera. Okay. We're just melding worlds together." And I couldn't take him seriously in the moment because he looked like he should have died 15 years ago.
And you've been hoping for that.
I have been, and like it was excessive to see how bad. And okay, so I've made no secret about this. I haven't read the prequel, but like, does he get that bad in the prequel as well? Because it was ridiculous. If I was like that, I'd be like, someone please just put me out of my misery. Put a pillow over my face, like something.
Well, he's trying to set his affairs straight. Like he does die at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people who look like that. I guess I just don't. Maybe the caricature of it to you like seems false. I've known people who have you know
It
looked kind of.
just it felt so excessive to see him like get worse and worse and worse every, like, to the point where half of his face is missing, like.
Well, for your sake, I wish that they had just changed actors for him.
it was it was a lot, but so it, like, in the moment I was like, I can't take you seriously, but then afterwards when you think about what his character actually did in the episode, he probably had the strongest episode storyline, I think.
I thought it was great, man. I thought that he finally, like, you called him spineless so many times, and I could relate to him on some levels of just like, well, you care about people, like you don't want to just like hurt all these other people, but like he's doing it at the expense of so many more people. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like he was trying to do a good thing, and it just wasn't working. Wasn't the way it should have been. And
I didn't think he was spineless in this one.
well, in this one, I felt like this. I mean, that's the thing I kept thinking. It's like this is not spineless. Like this is the soul of bravery on a lot of different levels.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's been in so much pain, and he doesn't want to be king anyways, even from the start. Like I don't buy that he at any point wanted to be king.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does a lot of things that are maybe like more on a personal level than it should have been. Like as king, maybe he should have been above more things. But as he like he doesn't want to be king, people are ruling in his stead. He's high on milk of the poppy all the time. Like he's just he's just like, yeah, I'm just waiting to die. I'm good. I don't want anything to do with anything.
Right.
And then he sees that his inaction is going to materially hurt his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, no, not taking that crap that you keep giving me. I'm gonna come make decisions on this important day, and screw you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
No,
you think you're gonna get one over on me?
I thought he had probably had like this was probably his strongest portrayal of his character, I thought.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially because he basically was like, my other kids don't matter. Like,
Right.
like Rhaenyra is the one that matters, which I thought was kind
Those,
of funny.
those other kids are kind of just awful.
Dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say pieces of shit, but
That works too. Um, I
just
I
awful.
also I also noticed. I mean, not that I'm gonna call anyone a bad mother or anything, but Allison's kids are way more worse behaved than Rhaenyra's.
Yeah, I thought about that. I agree with you on that. Yeah, I agree. I would like to see them a little bit older
Mm-hmm.
as well, because they've gotten a little like the you're right. You're right. Allison's kids are just
Pieces of shit.
yeah. Yeah. And the other two aren't above rubbing the note, like rubbing the other people's, like tweaking their nose. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're, I saw some good things, but then they're also like they're the ones who engineered like that pig be set in front of the younger
Right in front of Aemon.
Aemon. Yeah, like they, you can see their mischievous smiles. Like they were intended to tweak his nose. Like there are certain things like that. I just want to give them a couple more years to age to see if they catch up to the debauchery or whatever.
Right, to see if it's the same level.
Right, like the older of all of them was taking liberties that weren't okay at all,
Mm-hmm.
but also they're probably liberties that someone his age would take that the other kids, his nephews wouldn't have taken
Right.
at their ages. So you're right, though. Not a good mom, clearly, like not raising them well.
So, yeah, they were interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. It was. You're right. They weren't good. Weren't doing well. I mean, you could tell that Allison kind of like she seemed better this time. Like she was deranged in the episode before, not
Mm-hmm.
doing okay, not acting okay. This one, she seemed like she was trying to do the best she could, kind of thing.
She felt performative to me.
Okay.
I can't tell if she's being sincere or not. At the start of this episode, I was really mad at her. When she was like when she was questioning the girl and giving like the servant girl and giving the tea to her and all that kind of stuff.
You were mad at her? Why?
Oh man, because at the immediate the immediate portrayal that you get just from that particular scene is that she's spinning it around and blaming it on her, on the servant girl, and is protecting her son. It was very much a like Cersei Joffrey type of vibe that I was getting, and I didn't like it, and it pissed me off. But then when she went into Aegon's room and woke him up and was like giving him crap for it, I was like, okay, this is a little bit better. And then she was being really, it felt like she was being fake with Rhaenyra, and I was like, are you acting this way because you two have... This is the problem as well that is happening with the time jumps, and I get why they're doing it, because they want to get to what is going to start this like civil war between them. So you need to kind of like fast forward through all of these years. But the last time we saw Alicent and Rhaenyra together, Alicent literally like tried to stab her kid's eyes out and slashed her arm open, like was absolutely, crazy, for lack of a better term. And now she's like, oh, hey, like, good to see you. It felt very, and I was like, what did I miss here? Like, when did you two reconcile, or are you just being fake?
Well, I think at first they were being just strained civility. I mean, what do you do? Like, that you just go back to instantly trying to stab her kid's eyes out. Like she shows up in King's Landing and You see a shrieking Alicent with a dagger, like yeah, like just trying to yeet him out. Like I don't.
But I think it could be like more cold if you haven't had that
Well,
reconciliation.
I felt like it was pretty cold. She didn't greet them.
No, she didn't.
She's just like, yeah, they showed up. It's like the second most important person in the kingdom shows up, and you don't even greet them. Like
Yeah.
they just show up at King's Landing and nothing.
Yeah.
No one.
And I mean, like, Daemon and Rhaenyra seemed cold to her.
Well, I mean, I think they all should have been pretty cold, but they also. I mean, I feel like a lot of times the manners that, like I've heard it said before, like that a lot of times the reason they've created all the etiquette and, the bowing and the manners of address and all this stuff was so that people back then who had quarrels wouldn't just start fighting instantly. Like you'd have these different ways of actually discussing things and being able to talk. So that they wouldn't just go to each other's throat. And so that's kind of what I felt like. They were hiding behind their formality, kind of.
So they're being fake.
I mean, as fake as, I think that it's like, in this case, a good fake, because it's keeping people from killing each other.
For now.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't know. One of my favorite sayings in the whole world is, courtesy is seldom unwise. And like treating people, yeah, sure, so being courteous to someone you hate may be fake, but at the same time, like it also leaves the possibility that maybe there's some reconciliation possible in the future.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a weird thing because from very early on, Alicent was talking about how Rhaenyra's kids will pretty much have to die so that her kids can take the throne.
Right. Well, Alicent's dad was saying that, right?
Yeah.
And you could tell she was pretty uneasy about it. So let's actually juxtapose this, though, so that they're coldly formal to each other, and they're fake. Let's look at the Valyrian guy, who is as real as it gets.
Yeah, the brother, Corlys's brother.
Yeah, he's just like, I just tell it like it is. She's a whore, they're bastards, like, screw you all.
Right.
And he gets his head chopped off because there's no other way to deal with a guy like that.
Right.
Like, either you just give him what he wants and let him bully you, or you chop his head off. Or he could have been coldly formal as well and maybe gotten his way without being such a dick.
True. I will say that was probably one of my favorite moments in the episode.
I thought that whole throne room scene was my favorite almost in the whole series. Like I loved, can I just say, I still think Daemon, like this episode, see, he keeps trying to reel me back in, like I'm not like him. Like, even though he's done some pretty awful things, like I loved that his brother was struggling to get across the courtyard, and he came, like no one else came. Like his wife didn't come to help him, the hand didn't come to help him, his kids didn't come to help his brother, who he's like banished multiple times, came to help him up the throne. And then he backed him up. He's like, I know you're not up to taking that dude's tongue, so I'll just kill him for you.
So there are two things here. One, yes, totally agree with that. Especially like that whole thing with Daemon being like, oh yeah, say it, and like baiting the Valyrian guy was hilarious. But two, I was reading an interview with the director of the episode, and that whole part where Daemon is helping Viserys up the steps to the throne and his crown falls was improvised. His crown wasn't supposed to fall. It just fell off the actor's head. Well, and then Matt Smith, he picked it up and just kept going and like stayed in character and did the whole.
Oh, that's perfect, man. Oh, that was such a nice touch too. Honestly, I was like, oh, that was so good, because it's so symbolic of he's just like, you could just in front of everyone, like he's already given up his claim, like he's married the heir, like he's very clearly like he's done, he doesn't want to be king,
Mm-hmm.
or at least he's renounced it. And this though, this is just the final nail in the coffin of, you know, like any rumors, like he crowns his brother, like,
Yeah.
I acknowledge you as the rightful ruler right now.
Right. But that like wasn't even in the script. It just happened.
No, it was perfect, so well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like overall, I just thought it was a really strong episode. Like I actually now am like, okay, like let's I'm invested even though I don't like any of you.
So I have to give props to Rhaenyra.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they have the dinner party, and like her sons, for the most part, totally outshine the other kids.
Right.
The other sons, like you know, they are way better behaved. You know, like they do a lot better, and not only you know, kids are just a reflection of parents in a lot of ways. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
but otherwise, I have to give props to Rhaenyra. Like after the king was like, please, like, you're my favorite people in the whole world. Why do you hate each other? Please, like, try to put your differences aside. Rhaenyra was the first one up, and you could tell it wasn't easy for her. The actress did a good job. Like,
Mm-hmm.
she's just like, oh, I don't want to be saying this, but like, you could tell she was as genuine as she could be.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's so good. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and then Allison responded in kind. Like, it was good.
But I feel like if Rhaenyra hadn't said that, Allison wouldn't have started it.
You just can't give me anything, can you? No, I mean, I
I feel
I feel like she needed prompting. Yeah.
yeah, like I feel like she responded in kind because she was prompted, and that is the proper thing to do.
I think she was genuine though.
I didn't think she was genuine. I thought she was doing it because that was the courteous thing to do.
I buy it. I think she, in that moment,
Nah, women
was pretty.
are really good at saying what needs to be said.
I think Alicent was being genuine there. She was. So you're wrong. That's fine. That's fine. So here, but it's all for naught regardless,
Right.
because in his last act of delirium, the king said a bunch of confusing things, and you know, Alicent isn't the most talented.
She's not the brightest bulb.
No,
Sharpest
she really
tool.
isn't. She's not the brightest shade of green in the family. She's definitely, yeah. And she's like, oh, he thinks after all he's done and said he wants my awful son to be king. Very well.
Right.
Let's let the kingdom burn for it.
Right. Which is gonna be. Which like. Just stop naming your kids the same name. Like, then none of this would happen.
It's true.
Like, just give your kids different names.
Yeah.
Just, man.
Oh, what's the country? It's a South American country. I forget. Is it like Chile, or maybe it's Central America? But they have a list of 300 approved names you can choose from.
I believe that. And I mean, like, my family is Portuguese, and it is so confusing. It's not even confusing, but like, anytime I talk about my extended family, I'm like, yeah, my Aunt John, or my Aunt Grace, my Uncle John, whichever. And then I'm like, nope, not that one. The other one on the other side. Like, everyone has the same
John.
name. Everyone's right. John. Everyone's Mary. It's like, and it's a running joke. Like,
it's like, could Jesus please have associated with more people? so that we can have more variety in names of what to call people.
The amount of people who correctly guess my mother's name is like skyrocketed. Like, you could buy a lottery ticket with how accurate it is. And like, Yeah, so it's like just name your children different names, then you won't have this confusion. Then there'd be no like, oh yeah, my piece of shit son is supposed to be king.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my grandma actually. It's just so funny. She told my mom, "Oh, I thought that you'd name him a biblical name," and it's like they don't get much more biblical than the first
Yeah.
human's name being
Mm-hmm.
Adam. Like. But what she means is like I think what she was like trying to say, and she just failed at communication, but she was trying to say like a saint name, like a
Yeah.
name more like recognized as a saint, because I don't think that Adam was considered a saint. I don't know as much about Catholicism as I
He's
maybe should,
not.
but yeah, like just because he's important and in the Bible doesn't make him by in that sense biblical, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that was funny. I'm like, I always give my mom crap. I'm like, you just had to pick the first human name ever. Like you couldn't just like read down the name list a little bit further.
Yeah. So
Uh,
yeah, this is
anyways,
this is although is going to lead to a really interesting next episode.
oh, okay. So here's my interpretation. I know you don't think Allison was being genuine. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think those two want like I think that they've missed each other. I think that they have like wanted to be friends but they can't, and they have to play the roles that they're given, and that they're not allowed to be friends. And I think my interpretation, like I said, and maybe I'm wrong, but I saw them as like they have such a deep history, and like all the older people, all the actual adults in the room understand this history and the weight of that situation, and of like the depth of meaning of like the two women coming together again, like being friends again, and potential for maybe some unity.
Mm-hmm.
And then the kids, the spoiled rotten brat bastards that they are, some of them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and like they fail to see the gravity of it. They lack the maturity, they lack the they lack the history, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to settle their little petty like I can have sex better than you, like stupid,
Right.
you know,
But
dick
then
measuring
like
stuff. And, like they just ruin it.
be a freaking parent and
Hmm?
parent your child.
Stomp it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Like I just I'm baffled by this whole, oh yeah, I'm gonna let my son do what he wants because he's the heir. He's gonna be on the throne, so he can do as he pleases, and I just won't parent him.
I think she kind of tried there for a minute, but yeah.
Yeah, and then gave up.
I mean, no passes from me. I think there's the most important thing a person can do if they choose to become a parent, or even if they find themselves in that situation. Um, I think being a good parent is about the most important thing a person can do, because that affects the lives of tons and tons of people.
Right.
So yeah, you don't get free passes from me, Allison. Even though I have been kind of taking her side on
Mm-hmm.
things, not that, not
It
that.
it's just very like, so I started rewatching Game of Thrones because the show put me in the mood for it. Um,
Okay.
and I just finished season 1, so I'm into season 2, and Joffrey is king. And the amount of crap that he does that his mother just lets happen, I'm like, parent him. Like, he is a spoiled brat. Stop it. Like,
Knock that crap off. Yeah.
yeah. And I see a lot of that in Allison, and not necessarily Aegon, to be honest, but I see it in Aemond. And I think he is actually going to be the problem child. Um,
Oh, he was so aggressive, man.
yeah, I think he's going to be the one that burns everything to the ground. But I just see that same pattern, and I'm like, you're going to screw yourself over.
Yeah, I think it'll be the boys that start that war. Well, I mean Alicent too. So,
Yeah, I think it's going, but out of the boys, I think it's Aemond, not Aegon, that's going to start it.
well, not that Aegon is like beyond it. Like he's like, oh, I'm better than that. He's just like he's not as focused.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be the one that just tags along because it's a good time. But Aemond is the like genius doing the all the plans.
Well, yeah, I mean, in a way, I kind of like that guy. The guy with the with no eye. He's a bastard. Well, he's not literally one, but like he's not someone I like really.
but and
But like,
you
yeah,
can see it
he's
though in him being like throwing out like the strong and like baiting them like that. It
yeah.
is just something that I can see him doing to bait them, and then Aegon will be like, "Yeah, I'm here. Let's go for it."
Well, I mean, it was so pathetic. The older boys like, you've never bedded a woman before. And it was so transparent. He's
Mm-hmm.
trying to bully, but it was like, who even cares what you're like? You're supposed to be an adult and you're saying this crap.
Right.
Like, how petty and foolish and stupid you sound.
Right.
Just and the other one just waited. He was quiet the whole time you know until what he did was effective. you
Mm-hmm.
know yeah. So anyways, we'll see. There was a lot of swords drawn in the preview, so we'll see what happens.
It's gonna be well. The next one's episode 9, so I'm fully expecting something massive.
What was the episode that Ned Stark was executed?
Episode 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
So I'm fully expecting.
that's kind of like the mini climax then.
I'm expecting somebody to die next week. Which
Very well then.
okay. I mean, someone has died basically every week. I'm expecting like a major character to die next week. I'm expecting the start of
Like Damon might just get killed
yeah, like I'm
randomly or
expecting
something,
yeah, I'm expecting something ridiculous.
or Rhaenyra or someone. Yeah, and I don't know where it goes. Like I know I watched that video. I think we're past the point that I watched though. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm definitely going to watch the last two. It's a very interesting show. They've done a good job.
Yeah.
I will say I don't want my kids to be like any of these characters though.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. No, thank you.
Yeah. Well, good. Good. So Cassian, or sorry, Andor.
Andor? Yeah.
Do you have anything else about Dragon Show?
No, I was just gonna say that the last 2 episodes, I'm officially on board with the show now. Good job.
Yeah, they did a good job of. Yeah, I didn't really care until a certain point.
Yeah.
And here I will say this though. So you don't like the new actors, but once they got new actors for the females, for the girls, for the females, I sound like one of those guys. Yeah. But when they changed out the 2 actresses, that's when you got interested. So
Yeah, I mean that's when they started doing some crazy stuff.
yeah. Well, clearly the actresses are. It's not a problem of acting for them.
No, I don't
It's
think
just
so.
it's just the physical appearance that is probably messing with you. Okay, so Andor.
Yeah, Andor. This
Um,
was a good episode.
just like all the other ones.
I know this show. So this is actually kind of the cool thing with Andor that I'm really liking is it's not. It feels like I'm watching like a James Bond show. Like
Okay.
it
I
doesn't.
mean,
It doesn't have the typical Star Wars feel to it. Not, and I don't mean that in like in a bad way. I just mean it's very different from everything that Star Wars has done as a TV show, and I'm enjoying like the what's the word? I don't want to say it's like a thriller, but it's
So it's a
spy.
spy. It's a spy. I mean, that's what they billed it as at the start. Was like, yeah, this is going to be a spy show.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah, and you're right. It does. I'd be interested to know because this show has a lot of like morally gray things. I'd be
Mm-hmm.
interested to know what George Lucas would think because he always used to say like it's all everything needs to be black and white, kind
Right.
of like light and dark side. Like it's not there's you don't just like take half measures. There's no middle ground. If you play with that, then you're playing with fire and you'll essentially just turn to the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very clear cut. You're the good guy or bad guy. And in this, it's like, I don't
Are you?
know.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of these characters are very good and some of them are clearly bad.
Right. And some of them you're kind of like, okay, you're sometimes good, and sometimes when you're good, you do bad things. And
Yeah. Okay. So for example, the Imperial Colonel.
yeah.
So there's a few like smirks he gave that kind of show like, oh, he's not the nicest guy,
Right.
kind of like necessarily, but he showed a lot of bravery in the heart of like think of it if weren't already sympathetic toward the rebel
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Think if we were just seeing a random, like some people are robbing the Imperials. Like we don't have any ties to the Imperials either. We just walk in on the situation,
Mm-hmm.
and like they're holding like the kid at gunpoint, and in the middle of that, the colonel just draws his pistol and he's brave and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, no, like, so I'm going to stand up to these guys. Like, it's admirable. What he did was actually like in that circumstance, I was like, I mean, I'm relieved when they take him out because I care about the rebel characters. But if you remove your own sentiment from it, it's like, I think otherwise I might have been rooting for the colonel actually,
Mm-hmm.
if all things were equal.
Well, I actually like that you pointed that out because in that whole scene, you have like you said, you already have your attachment to the rebels, but even with them having like the family members down, and like you've got all the pistols drawn and everything, and you that one woman is like, oh, just do what they say, like as they're taking him
Hmm.
away. I was like, oh, you could feel like I felt that from her, and it wasn't. I didn't not care because she was part of like the empire. I was just like, oh wow, like she is terrified right now.
She wants to protect her kid. She wants to protect
Yeah,
herself. Yeah.
and it was done so well that you could still feel that from her, feel that emotion from her, and totally understand like her fear and everything, but still also know like you're a bad guy, quote unquote, and you have your
Hmm.
allegiance already set. But they do a really good job of showing you both sides of it. Like it's very gray.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so far Cassian has like, if you include Rogue One, like he's just in cold blood killed three people.
Right.
Like just people who maybe we're expecting to get shot, but probably not. Like, especially in Rogue One, the guy's like, I don't know what to do, and he was a liability. So Cassian is just like, all right, well, I gotta fulfill my mission.
Yeah. Cassian is like your, and I think this show is really driving this point home for me. He is your typical character that looks out for himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I, there is just something to me so compelling about a character who is like a sympathetic character, a good guy character,
Mm-hmm.
who's also willing to. This sounds horrible, but who's willing to kill people in cold blood.
Right.
Like who's just like, no, I need that someone's my enemy. I'm not going to just wait for them to initiate things. Like I'm going to win. Like that's one of the reasons I love the Solo movie, and
Mm-hmm.
then and one of the reasons there was such a huge fan like uproar when, Han shoots Greedo in the cantina, and it's like Greedo was going to, like Han had to do that. He needed to do that. That was a, and it showed what kind of character he was. And then they like showed that Han got lucky and Greedo just like missed at point blank range.
Right.
Like Greedo's gonna kill him, and he just like they added that, and it's such an abomination. Like it needs to be killed with fire. That Han,
Mm-hmm.
like Greedo doesn't shoot first. Han kills him preemptively as part of his strategy, and then they emphasize that in Solo. He shoots Beckett, but like I don't know. I just think that that's the more pragmatic way of approaching things. That's something that I don't know. Star Wars kind of needs a
It
little bit.
it's more realistic in a way because there isn't ever like I mean maybe in some scenarios there is, but most of the time it's not a clear cut black and white scenario. A lot of the times there is this gray in the middle where you fall, what like whether it's like a lighter shade of gray or a darker shade of gray, like it's still a gray area, and it feels much more realistic to how people would react and how people are in real life. um so it's just a very refreshing way of handling a TV show.
Oh, I think it's great. I mean, I said it a lot of times when this podcast was just talking about Wheel of Time.
Mm-hmm.
And like the boys would like beat a bunch of like dark friends,
Mm-hmm.
but they just knock them unconscious and then leave. I'm like, they're just gonna come try to kill you again. Like, just take the 5 seconds it would take to go stab every one of them in the throat and
Mm-hmm.
then go. Like, and I know I felt like maybe I shouldn't feel that way. Maybe I should feel guilty about this, but I'm like, they're
Well,
going to try to kill you again. Like, this is self-defense. Like, just because they're unconscious right now and it's not like sportsmanly like, it doesn't mean like it's not like they're going to have any compunction about doing that to you. Like, you know
well,
just go finish it.
did you ever see the movie Zombieland?
Yeah,
So
it's been a while.
but it's like there where he's going through all of the rules at the beginning of the movie, and it's very well done and humorous. But he's like, you do the double tap, like take don't just hit them once and think that they fell over and everything's good. Like double tap them in the head and make sure they're dead. Like
uh,
otherwise they're just gonna. It's the same thing. They're just gonna come after you if you don't do it properly the first time.
yeah, and Cassian's just like, you know what, like every time I'm like, yeah, you're in a situation where you need to. I mean, how is it going to work? He's in episode 1 of this series. He's on Morlana or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, or whatever the planet. And that guy, he's like, we'll go to the station. We'll tell him it was an accident. Like, do you really think that guy was going to tell him it was an accident?
Right?
You know,
Exactly. And
like,
and that's the thing. Like Cassian knows that. He's like, you're not gonna. And who are they gonna believe?
right,
So yeah.
right. He's not going to get mixed up in that. Like, that guy's going to just turn on him the second he can, because he already did. He's already fine with just robbing and potentially murdering
Right.
a totally innocent, as far as he knows, person. Like, may as well just, so yeah, so he just shoots him, and I'm like, that makes sense. I don't know if that was the moral way to handle it, but I think that's the pragmatic and the most practical way.
Mm-hmm.
That guy already did, like, actually, maybe even not try to kill him, but he certainly threatened to kill him.
Right.
And then in this, so were you surprised when the guy betrayed him? Like, when the guy was like, hey, could go get that money, or not betrayed him, but when he gave Cassian the
Mm.
offer at the end.
I don't know if I was surprised. I don't want to say like I was like, oh yeah, I saw that coming, but it didn't really. It wasn't something that shocked me. It was one of those things that I was like, kind of, sort of makes sense when you get a group of people together that are hired to do something that like you're probably gonna have someone turn, and it did sort of go sideways a little bit. So it felt like a natural progression in a way, which sounds probably bad about like my faith in humanity, but it it didn't surprise me, but it didn't not surprise me either. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like, no, not at all.
No, no, I get it. Like, I mean, the whole show operates in kind of that gray area, like you were saying, and yeah, I was a little bit surprised, like, because he seemed pretty genuine about his brother and
Mhm.
everything, and I was like, how do you fall in with a bunch of rebels? Like, I was more worried about like the plausibility of it because it's like, how did he fall in with the rebels if he's just going to try to rob people?
Right.
Like otherwise, it if you're not in it for the ideals of it, it seems like a pretty. I mean, that was a pretty. If Cassian hadn't showed up to help them,
Hmm.
that they would have called it off because they should have, because those guys were not on top of things as much as they should have been.
Right. Um, yeah, yeah, exactly like you said. It was a really good example of more gray area in the show.
Yeah.
So, um, and then I think it just led to more for Cassian to move forward in his storyline and like his gray area as a character and as a human.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I thought it was just so interesting because Cassian clearly has a moral.
mhm.
He has some morals because um he could probably have just shot Val, you know?
Right. And he did give like the necklace back, the
Yeah.
crystal back.
Well,
Um,
and yeah, good follows good. Then she was like, okay, all right, I can see you're not entirely in the wrong about this.
right.
Like he wasn't acting that honorably,
Mhm.
but I mean, you can hardly blame him, honestly. Like this random guy just like basically kidnaps you and just like forces you to go work with a bunch of insurgents. And he's like, yeah, the only reason I could actually entice this guy to do it, can entice Cassian. I just almost called him Asian. The only way I could entice this guy was by offering what 200,000 credits.
Yeah, something ridiculous. And that's the thing, like, and Cassian even says that. He's like, I'm only taking my share.
And then he pays the guy double for the freighter
Yeah.
or for the ship of his, and he gives the crystal back. Like he does everything, and he kills the guy
Hmm.
because that guy would have killed him if he had said like, no, we're not going to do that. That guy would have been like, well, now you're a liability.
Yeah, exactly.
So he had to make that decision. He killed the guy, and but I thought it was fun, like because at first when he first shot the guy, I was like, oh,
Hmm.
because why wouldn't he just steal the freighter himself? Like
Right.
he could have 80 million. Why not just have 80 million? The other guy had to offer more money because he couldn't pilot it.
Yeah. Yeah. He needed somebody to do it.
Yeah. So I thought that was, but she's like, oh, you're not here. It's not about you, doctor. Like
Hmm.
it's and Cassian's like, no, it's not what you think either, though.
Yeah, it
I
was.
don't know.
I don't. I don't know. I felt like it was so well done. And then
Mhm.
I was also really sad that one of the crew members, like one of the guys died. I can't remember his name, but he died. I was like,
Three
oh
of them did. Three of them did.
yeah, but like the man, the one in particular that got like squished by the in
The
the
manifesto guy,
yeah.
Temin.
I was like, oh, that one just like I don't know what it was. It just bothered me that he died. Not like that I was mad about it. I just was like, oh, I'm actually sad that you died. I wanted you to survive.
Oh yeah, I liked that guy. He was the most likable of all of them.
Hmm. So,
The rest of them, I'm like, I don't really care.
I mean, you know that people are gonna die in a show like this. You know that things are gonna go sideways. That's the only way. Like, you can't have everything go perfectly. It's gonna be boring. So you know things are gonna go sideways. People are gonna die. Um, but his just felt more. I don't know, sad.
So one thing I wanted to point out, I thought of this time. Cassian in this show can never go. He can never get captured and go to prison
Right.
because in Rogue One,
Hmm.
they're like, oh yeah, like they're in a cell. He's like, yeah, this is my first. I hate it.
Yeah. So he can never. Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
he just can't ever get captured. Like, so you know that there might be firefights, but he'll always get out of them until the Death Star firefights him to death. And
Sad.
I know, unless we believe the how it should have ended
Yeah.
ending.
uh, um.
We're all still alive.
Yeah.
That's funny. I'm a leaf on the wind. But yeah. Anyways, it was good. What did you think of the portrayal of the Aldani people?
I thought it was okay. It didn't. It didn't bother me, and it didn't like. I wasn't like, oh wow, this is great, but I was like, okay, this is it. This is the Aldani people, and they just were there.
Yeah, they showed him a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
kept thinking that they were, especially when they burned that fur.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought that they were going to like. I thought they were going to mess things up. Actually,
Oh, like just in general, like with
I,
everything going on, or
well, so what I predicted, and I was wrong. But my thought was when I was watching it, I was like, okay, they're gonna attack, like choose this moment of distraction to attack the Imperials and try to like drive them off their land.
mm-hmm.
They've all got sticks. They're kind of brandishing them and like kind of glaring at the Imperials and stuff. Like, seemed like they were gonna do that. But when they did that, then it would like set off the alarms and everyone to go into full alert status before they wanted it. I thought that was what was going to happen, and
Right.
didn't go that direction. But I found myself just like kind of just sad for them.
Yeah.
They're like going to this spiritual event, and they're all of them are just like enraptured by the eye, and they're singing their chants and they're doing their thing, pretty harmless. And the Imperials are just, like very, like almost mockingly discussing, like, oh yeah, these people they don't have a good attention span. They're not good at making decisions.
Right.
So we're just going to manipulate them into doing what we want, and they won't even see it because he's like, yeah, well, we offered them transport only because we knew they weren't going to accept it.
Right.
The Imperials are like, yeah, we're the good guys.
They're just being manipulative because they know what the outcome is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I did think it was interesting though, because there was a lot of emphasis on, we're going to be peaceful. We're going to treat these people, like we're not going to have anything bad happen. Like, I thought that was good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I,
It seemed to. I don't know. I felt like it was good, and it fit in a way. I feel like you also need that kind of a. I don't know. I feel like I just expect the Empire to find a group of people that they could manipulate.
sure. Well, yeah, the guy's like, oh yeah, well, we won't let them in here until we need workers to build the whatever you're going to build, Mr. Architect or engineer, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I thought also that it was sad. Like the lieutenant dies, and I wasn't even sure. I watched it twice
Mm-hmm.
actually, and neither the first time I was like, what happened to the lieutenant? And the second time I was watching, and he gets shot, but he just gets shot from behind,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a ton of other people in green uniforms, and he just goes down, and no one even cares. Like that's the
Yeah.
last you see of him. Unless we just like catch another corpse in the background, but otherwise, like the lieutenant who's helped him, he's just gone, and no one cares.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
just Gorn. Isn't that his name, Lieutenant Gorn? Yeah,
Sad.
yeah.
Yeah. I am. I'm really looking forward to next week's because obviously you had this whole like mission thing and it went sideways, and then Cassian just is like, "Okay, bye. See you. I'm taking my cut." And I'm like, "Man, where are you going?"
I think he's going back to Morlani. That's
Yeah.
how we get to see what's her name again.
Bix.
Bix. Well, because he's got all these people, and he's like, "I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back." And
Right.
now he has enough money, he can pay them all back. Hopefully.
Right. That's true. I just feel like
The Imperials are there.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a very obvious place for him to go. That anyone looking for him is going to go there.
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think that's. I doubt he's going to be that wise, frankly.
Right. Right.
He might do it kind of cautiously, like try to. But yeah, I think in the end that's going to go sideways for him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if I have to predict what next, I'll let you predict first, and then I'll tell you what I think. What do you think is going to happen?
So next week is the 7th episode, and we have what? 8, 9, 10,
12 total.
12? We get 12?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why I've said. So I've said every 3 episodes is its own arc.
Yeah.
Is my prediction that's panned out so far.
So it's going to be the start of a new arc next episode, theoretically.
Theoretically, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think maybe you're right. He goes back to Morlani, and that's where you see everyone else. But like, I expect people to be going after him. Like, I expect people to get there and be like, no, we do, because he obviously ends up. We know he's gonna end up with the rebels, so something has to happen to pull him back into that. He can't just like leave and then go hide out somewhere and be on the run. They're gonna find him.
I think what's gonna happen is he's gonna get there, and the Imperials have now set up shop there. You remember they set the precedent of that Imperial intelligence guy putting a captain in charge. He's like, yeah, you could be the prefect or whatever. You can wear a gown. Who cares? Just accept your lot in life and move on. And the captain seemed pretty pleased about that. I think that Cassian will get there. He's going to be trying to pay, give all of the money back to people, like pay, make things right with people, take care of his mom mother figure, Melva or whatever her name is. It's not her name, something with an M, but somehow they're going to run amok with Imperials, and the Imperials are going to do something, like they're going to kill his mom or something.
Yeah.
And he's going to be like, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm going to torch the whole place.
I am wondering if they're going to do that.
I think that's going to be his thing. He's going to be like, all right, you rat bastards. They're right. I hate you. You
need something to push him back into the rebellion that isn't them showing up and being like, we really need you because you can fly a freighter. Like you need something stronger.
Yeah.
And them killing his mom would probably do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not Bix, because I like Bix.
Yeah. I think that's a fair, very fair prediction.
Okay. We'll see if it pans out.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on Andor?
I mean, there's always more thoughts, but this is pretty good. I liked it. So I guess one last thought was, I think it's interesting that so before now, kind of, like we've seen, for the most part, like we've seen little glimpses of other Imperial Army people, like in Solo, for instance, like they're all on the ground on that mud planet killing each other, killing people, and it's awful, and they're all mud troopers, but they're not stormtroopers. They're very clearly not stormtroopers. But otherwise, all the other Imperial presence, like you don't get more iconic for Star Wars than stormtroopers, right?
Right.
But there aren't any stormtroopers here.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all just Imperial Army guys that like, you have to think, because stormtroopers are probably pretty expensive, actually. Like their armor can't be that cheap. and well equipped. Like they may as well just get conscripts that probably don't have to pay for their equipment as much, probably don't have to pay them as much or pay as much for their training.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just thought it was, like on the back world imperial planets, like you don't have to have stormtroopers everywhere. You can have just random conscript guys.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hmm. But yeah, I was sad. Was it driving you a little crazy until you realized? So Temmin gets smashed,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, and Cassian's like, I need numbers, and they're like, hold on, and they're like both propping Temmin, and I was like, dude, someone go help Cassian. Like, yes, it's sad he got smashed, but you're gonna all die
Right.
instantly. I was so annoyed, and then I was like, oh, Tim is the only person who can do it. Or, I keep calling him Tim, and it's probably Nemec or something.
Yeah, it was.
Whatever that guy is.
It was. I don't know if I was necessarily annoyed. I actually thought that he died right away in that moment. I was like, oh, crap, he's dead.
It was so
Um,
sad. Like,
yeah, and then I was like, okay.
mm,
And then when they got him, I'm like, okay. And he's like, I feel like maybe it made it a little bit worse. Like that's probably what made it more sad. I thought he was out of the woods kind of thing. Um,
well, yeah, that was the thing. It was like the Imperials didn't do it. I mean, if you have to blame someone, you can blame Cassian, who's the number one person to blame, kind
right,
of. Not that he's is to blame, but
right, yeah. So no, I don't think I was necessarily bothered by it. I was just more sad in that moment.
yeah, it was sad.
Yeah.
I was sad. All right.
All right,
Should we move on to Rings of Power, the finale?
finale. Yeah, this was a interesting episode.
Did you like it?
I did. Um, I don't like that we didn't see the dwarves or the Southlanders at all.
Yeah, they're just gonna go to some port city.
I know, but I'm like, I want to know what the heck's going on with you guys.
They're all self-important. Sorry,
So,
that wasn't that good.
uh, I just, I mean, I get why we didn't because there wasn't really anything, in my opinion, that really needed to be wrapped up or like questions answered with those storylines. A lot of it was with the elves and um, the Harfoots with the stranger and everything. But yeah, it
I think
was.
I think we'll show up and Isildur is gonna just be in that port city or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to think about Isildur and where he is.
Yeah, so we didn't get to see the Southlands at all.
Right. Um, but yeah, I think there was just so much to wrap up elsewhere that it made
Mhm.
sense not to necessarily see those other storylines, but I still wanted to. Like I was like, oh, like what are you doing? Um, breathing in ash, probably, but
Mhm.
too soon.
Sad.
Too soon. But yeah, no, it was. So the very beginning when the stranger is like in the woods kind of on his own and whatnot, and then those three, I don't know what you even want to call them, but random psycho ladies
Yeah.
show up.
The subtitles had like little titles for them, like the ascetic and the mystic and something
Mm.
else. I forget.
So like first of all, I was when he was like walking through and he's holding his apple and then it falls and I was like, oh no, it was like ah, and I just got like so sad. Anyway,
I know.
but okay, so you have them and they meet up with him and whatever and all this is going on. What was your initial reaction there when they were like when they called him Lord Sauron?
I mean, I was like, that's too easy. He's not Sauron.
Okay.
I,
I
I was like, that they handed it way too fast. Like they think he is, but he's not. He's just not.
okay. I was mad
Why?
because I didn't want him to be Sauron.
Yeah, that's why I was like, he's not Sauron.
Yeah.
They just want to, they're faking us out.
I was like,
You know what my initial response was?
hmm.
Was, oh, we're gonna find out who Sauron is this episode. That's not him.
Right, right. Because you were just like, nah, it's not. It's not this guy.
It's not him, but they're trying to fake us out, so it's more dramatic when we find out who the real one is.
Right. Which did you feel it was more dramatic?
Oh, so I had an aha moment that maybe you didn't pick up on
Mm-hmm.
because it's like a lore thing
Okay.
that I was like, oh, yeah, he's Sauron.
Okay. What was it? I'm curious because I kind of like
At what point did you think he was Sauron? Out of curiosity.
um I started feeling really weird about him when he was talking about making like melding the material with something else. And then I was kind of like, okay, like this is odd. And he seemed very like eager for it, like over the top excited. But when he was in that like court, I don't know if it's courtyard's even the right word, but he's outside with Galadriel. That was when I was like, no, there's something wrong here.
Like right before he kind of revealed himself, like before they went into the weird little like world of her mind.
No, like when she is first talking to the elf to go and like find all of the history of the
Okay.
Southlanders, and he's like, oh, like I'll have to go into the catacombs, and they kind of hide away and people are walking
Hmm.
around, and then she goes in there and Halbrand comes out, and she like makes a comment about him being chummy or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I just got like this really weird. I don't know. Like that was when I was like, no, there's something wrong.
Okay. So he says when he's talking to Celebrimbor, and
Mm-hmm.
he's already talking to him. I'm like, oh, okay, this is probably. I think I know where this is going. But then he says, "Call it a gift."
Oh, okay.
And so it in the books in the Second Age, this isn't exactly how it happens in the books, of course. Like, I mean, who knows how it exactly happens, but it refers to like so Sauron is missing for a long time and then he eventually reappears, but people don't recognize him as such.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, he takes the guise of a person called Anatar.
Okay.
And but the other like the translation to that is like Lord of Gifts or something
Oh.
like that. Like it's you know, give bringer of gifts,
Mm-hmm.
Lord of Gifts. Like a gift is very important there though.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes and charms everyone into, you know, and eventually they see through his stuff, but he's very charming, he's very attractive, he's very, you know, and yeah, he's Anatar, he's the bringer of gifts.
Right.
So when he was like, call it a gift
Hmm.
or something, I was like, that's it. That's the time. That's him.
Hmm. Okay. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't catch that at all. But I did like. I was like, something is. It was the whole vibe. Um. Yeah, it just felt weird.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, he. I mean, once they were just so obviously, I was like almost relieved when they said when the white cloaks said, uh, you know, like our Lord, my Lord Sauron. I was like, okay, it's not him. Thank goodness. I did not want it to be him.
Right. Right. Yeah. Once I don't know. I started feeling iffy, and then I was like, okay, something else has to happen here, though. That makes the stranger not Lord Sauron. So yeah, it was. I feel like I don't know. I might get lambasted for saying this, but I feel like you needed the Harfoots there. You needed Nori specifically.
Sure. Oh yeah, I mean that, and so that's the kind of heroics that we talk about, like that could actually be that the hobbits are allowed to have in their
Mm-hmm.
history. That
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like they're never supposed to do anything heroic. It's like no, it just there's no record of them having done something heroic. Like that tale is probably one that they'll pass down verbally until you know orally until it's just gone. You
Right.
know, like it's not part of the main histories. Um, yeah. Yeah, it was I really I like that arc. You want to talk about that arc real quick, and then we can go back to the rings.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I like that because like I think you needed her in order to pull him out of this like it was almost like he was in like a shame spiral. Like he just accepted what they were saying. He's like, yeah, I'm bad. I'm gonna this is who I am. Like they've told me who I am, and that must be the truth, right? Like even though he has no recollection of it, like and nothing's really come back to him at that point. So and they were obviously wrong. Is the other thing. I just really liked it because it really, really showed the bond between Nori and him. And I think that is a
Yeah.
pretty important part of the storyline for whatever reason.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just think I don't know. I think that there's this really cool nod to the fact, like like any major enterprise that's successful, it's very seldom just one person
Mm-hmm.
who makes it work. Like there's always someone. There's the figurehead. There's the person who gets all the credit. People are like, man, that person is awesome. Like actors, for instance, or comedians for that matter, or
Mm-hmm.
singers. A lot of times they don't even come up with their own stuff. Like sometimes they do,
Right.
maybe often. I don't know. I don't know. But I do know that there's a lot of them who have people write for them,
Mm-hmm.
and people, but they get credit for, they're like, oh my gosh, those lyrics are so profound.
Right.
And it's like, no, that singer is pretty dumb, actually. Like they're not profound. They're not smart. They're selfish assholes, and you'd probably hate them
Mm-hmm.
in real life. Like they're very self-absorbed, but then their lyrics are like, yeah, pretty good. But that's not doesn't show the depth of that singer. It shows that they can sing. They have that physical talent, and they get all the credit though.
Right.
And I just like the nod to it of like, Nori doesn't bring much to the table other than she's stubborn. Like she's gonna, like in a good way though, like she's gonna prevail. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's a winner. Like she's going to get the job done,
Mm-hmm.
even though she doesn't really know how. Like she's gonna find a way. She's a problem solver. And you know like I love that, even though he's the one with the power, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, he needed her.
Well, yeah, and like you could see it in even before the White Cloaks got there.
Hmm.
Like he was clearly fixated on this apple because Nori gave it to him and he can hear her voice and like even after they're there he can still hear her voice in his head. Like it's a very clear connection and bond for them. And I think that was really good to highlight, especially in contrast to the fact that they show up and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're Lord Sauron," and like eventually we'll lift this veil on you and you'll gain your powers back and everything will be good. Um, and it's a really nice contrast to have that bond there that kind of pulls him away from that instead of just falling because he doesn't know who he is. He's confused. He like doesn't understand anything, and it
Mm-hmm.
would be very easy to just be like, okay, yeah, this is my fate. Like I must be who you say I am. Like so, it's it's refreshing.
And then, so there was this moment. So both of my boys are named after characters in books,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was telling my older son about, what Perrin Abara was. His name is Perrin, and telling him about his character. And so the younger at the time, I think he was just 3. His name is Corin, and
Mm-hmm.
he knew that his name was from a book, but he didn't really know the story of it. And so he comes up to me and he says, "Daddy, who am I?"
Oh no.
And I like, he was just asking about his character, but it was just
Mm-hmm.
like, define me, tell me who I am, what am
Mm-hmm.
I, what person am I? And it just like that'll always stick with me because it was just like, I can't tell you who you are,
Mm-hmm.
like you already are, like but it was just very like almost heartbreaking in a lot of ways. And that, like, this really has a lot of parallels to that of, they're like telling him, you're the
Mm-hmm.
Dark Lord, you're evil. And
Mm-hmm.
And Nori's like, no, you're good, damn it all. Like,
Well, she even says to him like that. It's an exact parallel to that story because she says to him, "They can't tell you who you are." Like
yeah,
she has that whole thing, and she's like,
yeah.
"What you do defines who you are."
Well, and I just love like so I watched the end show just a little bit for Nerd of the Rings, right?
Mhm.
Trying to that was what I fell asleep watching while I was waiting for you to um
Sorry.
no, you're fine. But in the chat thing, it was kind of driving me crazy. Like there are a lot of people making fun of his line when he
Mhm.
says, I'm good, but I thought it was perfect, personally. Like he's like he doesn't know what he is until he's like, no, I'm not gonna go with the evil thing. Like that we're gonna go with good. Like
Well,
screw
and
you guys, not a Dark Lord.
this entire time he's pretty much been nonverbal. Like
Hmm.
he's had a few words here and there, but nothing that really could construct like a sentence or like what do
Yeah.
you expect him to say in this moment? Like this is his breakthrough.
Well, it was so interesting actually. I loved the language use here actually. People say that the show's poorly written and there are some aspects, but the dialogue is bad and all that, but I honestly I think that there's been a lot of parts that are fairly well written,
Mm-hmm.
frankly. And I loved his dialogue of like teetering between inarticulate nonsense and
Yeah.
being a well-spoken, powerful, like intelligent person who's been educated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he's shaking all of it's the wheels are starting to turn a lot faster here and he's
Yeah.
starting to get it back, but it's not all the way there. And so he has these moments of just like 3-year-old talk
Mm-hmm.
combined with like a high level educated person talk, like
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. Like he just is slowly, he's not all the way there yet. And that mix was good. I thought it was very well done.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I don't know. I just.
Like,
That didn't bug me when he was like, I'm like, to me it made sense.
yeah, well, what else do you expect him to like? How much more earnest can you get? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're a kid, like we all praise kids' honesty and like they're just like they're I don't know, just how straightforward they are about it. They're not nuanced, and that's attractive to adults because it's like, how are you today? I'm doing good. That
Mm-hmm.
could mean 8 million things. I'm doing good doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I'm good. If you ask a kid how they're doing and they say, I'm good,
Mm-hmm.
like in that instance, like you can just probably believe them because otherwise they're like, well, my foot hurts.
Right.
Like they'll just tell you what's on their mind. Uh, and he is, what do we want from him? We want him to be that, like we want to know what he is. The whole time we don't know, and he's finally like proclaims, this is who I am, and it's so genuine because of its simplicity.
Well, and it has this really good, and I can like maybe the argument is because he just had this whole articulate moment of being like, you came from the shadow, like that whole phrase was
Right.
really well spoken. And
Mm-hmm.
then he switches to this I'm good bit, and they're in direct contrast of each other, but it fits in the sense that he still doesn't know who he is. And like you said, he's like the wheels are starting to turn and everything, but it's very similar to me, like with somebody who has Alzheimer's or dementia, and where they have moments where they know who they are, they're all good, like everything's fine, and then like my grandmother, she had it, and one day I would see her, everything would be fine, and the next day, I'm not even joking, she thought she was 16 years old. And
Mm.
it's just it's that back and forth, and I feel like that's what you're seeing him come through
Yep.
in these really articulate moments, and then it's gone again.
Yeah.
And eventually it's going to be that articulateness all the time, because eventually that's what's going to come through, but you got to get there, and it's not
Yeah.
a light switch.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. It takes a while to build, and it was yeah. I not to mention. Let's say you're trying to convince someone that you're a good person
Hmm.
somehow. Like you're a like being eloquent about something is not actually going to lend itself to actually like if someone's trying to make a decision on your moral character based on the things you say,
Hmm.
being articulate and well spoken are not really going to be your friends there. They're not going to be your ally. It's going to be speaking from the heart and being real simple about the things you have to say.
Hmm.
Like talking about high minded ethics and ideals and everything. It's all well and good, and maybe eventually you could talk someone into it, but just that proclamation of I'm good, this is my emotion behind it,
Yeah.
that's going to be more convincing. So anyways, yeah,
Yeah.
I also really liked that they emphasized the power of a staff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can be naturally powerful, but if you don't have the staff, like that's like the next tier of power. Like you're not going to beat someone with a staff if you don't have one.
Right. And he was able to use that to his advantage and harness it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I thought it was good. I liked his storyline.
Yeah, I was sad that what's his name died.
Yeah, that was sad. I was a little I don't want to say like confused, but like at first I thought he died pretty much right away
Yeah.
because they
Yeah, me too.
right? And then he shows up. I'm like, wait, I thought you were dead. Like,
He shows up and like stabs their foot
yeah. And I was like,
and
okay. And then I thought maybe like the stranger could heal him or something. And I was like, oh,
I
like
thought so too.
I was like, he's gonna save him. And then they just kind of had this like moment, and I'm like, no, it's not gonna happen.
I mean, okay, so I did like him, and I wouldn't have been that opposed to him being saved. I just
Hmm.
it almost made his sacrifice more valuable.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what you would have done with him if you keep him alive. Like I don't. I feel like he served his purpose. It also made it more powerful in a way because they didn't want anything to do with the stranger at first, and then he was like, no, if you're gonna go and help him, you need me to help you get there, and that's what I'll do.
The only moments that I teared up in the entire show were with the Harfoots, actually.
Yeah.
And I didn't tear up that much, but it was at the end of episode what was it 7, and they're all getting ready to go after the stranger.
Hmm.
And then at the end of this one, where the Harfoots, where she's leaving, and all of them are just, like I don't know, it was just an emotional moment. I was like, I'm not really that touched, but it was somehow it moved me on some level, and I was kind of teared up a little bit. But yeah, for some reason it was the Hobbit arcs. I thought usually if I'm going to tear up, it's because it's something like epic, some epic show, sign of bravery, and like something that really resonates with me.
Hmm.
And it wasn't like none of the battles, none of those things. It's just the Harfoots caring for each other. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it was good. It was well done.
Yeah, and okay, so I mean, this isn't necessarily like you don't have all the lore to back you
Right.
up here. Do you have any inkling of who this wizard might be? Because they say he's an Istari, which translates to wizard.
Right. I have no idea. Like they said, or the white cloak people were like, oh, he's the other one, and I was like, well, who's the other one? Like, um, so I have no idea. I was like, maybe it's Gandalf, and then I'm like, is it Gandalf? And then I know people have like thrown around in our Discord server the Tom, uh,
Tom Bombadil.
yeah, his name.
No,
I don't know who that is.
it's not Tom Bombadil. That's
Um,
pretty definitive now. But
it is okay
oh
because
yeah,
he's a wizard, or
yeah. Tom Bombadil is other than an Istari. Istari are the it's hard to explain. So they're actually the same core creature as Sauron is, or Balrogs. Like they all just kind of are formed to take different shapes. It's like they're just like, I don't know. I always think of them as so they're Maiar. They're all Maiar, and it's like the Valar can shape them, or whoever's making them can shape them to be what they want, and then they take their form and go, take their place in the world. But it's kind of like you just buy a can of like clay or whatever,
right, like Play-Doh, and
Play-Doh. That's what I was trying to. Yeah, and you shape them, and then you give them life, and then go forth and do your thing. And so Astari, though, are the wizards. There's 5 of them, and Tom Bombadil is certainly not one of them.
So, but Gandalf is.
Yes, Gandalf, Radagast, Saruman. Those are the 3 you might know, and then there's 2 blue wizards.
Right. So who do you have an inkling of who he is?
Oh, they've narrowed it down to 2 for me. There's compelling arguments on both ends, actually. So first they show like when he's killing the White Cloaks at the end, they're vanquishing them, whatever, and they kind of turn into that moth thing.
Yeah.
And it looks exactly like the Peter Jackson movie moths that always show up whenever Gandalf is like when the eagles are coming.
Okay, yeah.
And they're like messengers to Gandalf, and like that moth held significance to him. And that's just a Peter Jackson fabrication. However, it looked exactly like those moths. And then a little bit later, toward the end, in fact, at the very end, when he's talking to Nori, he's like, whenever you're in doubt, Miss Brandybuck, always follow your nose.
Yeah.
And that is taken directly from Fellowship of the Ring when he tells Frodo.
Yeah, I heard that, and I was like, I am pretty sure I've heard that quote in the movies. Like I was like, I'm like pretty confident, and I wasn't too sure because I haven't watched them over and over and over again. I wasn't too sure who said it, but I was like, I swear I've heard that.
Yeah. So, and I could see like from a lore perspective, it doesn't make a lot of sense because Gandalf comes to Middle Earth in the Third Age. So this is Second Age. He quote unquote shouldn't be here.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's like I kind of want it to be Gandalf because I don't know anything about any of these blue wizards. Like there's barely anything in the lore about them.
Right.
And Gandalf, like he likes the hobbits. It sets a precedent for why he always looks out for the little people.
Yeah,
even though they don't care about him, they've forgotten about him, but he's always there for them. And it's like, well, they were always there for him. Like when he needed it most, they were there, and they've shown such stout hearts and such strength of character throughout his, millennia of knowing them, that he knows what they are at their core, kind of.
Yeah.
And not to mention, a lot of people just know who Gandalf is. They're like, oh yeah, I like Gandalf. Like casual fans, everyone knows who Gandalf is.
Yeah,
on some level.
It's a little bit of a fan service type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a blue wizard would make more sense to the lore by a huge margin. Right. In fact.
Right.
Because when they first came to Middle Earth, when Tolkien wrote it, they showed up in the Third Age as well. But then he went back and changed it, and the blue wizards showed up way before the other Istari. The other Istari stayed, in the Third Age, but the blue wizards showed up in the Second Age.
Okay, so it would make sense for it to be a blue wizard if you're following lore.
Well, and the other really big thing is where they disappeared off to was Rune, was the land that he's going to right now.
Right. Okay. And that's where the blue wizards disappeared to.
Yeah, and like the idea was that they actually so you watched Return of the King recently, the big Oliphant guys, the Haradrim. That's the land where they come from.
Okay, yep.
That's where not that they actually make any point of it in in the movies, but like the second strongest ring wraith was also from Rune, and he's actually one of the few ring wraiths we know the name of. But he comes from Rune. And so the Blue Wizards, the idea is that they go in and they disrupt that nation so much that they can't provide nearly as much support to Sauron in times of need as they would try to. So they keep trying to support Sauron. You know, they follow him, they worship him, whatever. But the Blue Wizards are the guys who are like running like a resistance kind of, who are like, you know, disrupting supply chains, or I don't know, like just kind of running a rebellion a little bit and subverting the people.
Right. Okay.
Their cause. And that's all we know about them, but it would make lore wise, like it seems like it should be Blue Wizard, but in a lot of ways my heart wants it to be Gandalf. So and we have Gandalf quotes, so who knows? Like it literally could be either. I feel like it's 50-50 right now.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Very fair. So what did you think? Let's talk about the rings. What did you think about that?
Yeah. So this isn't the way the rings were forged in the lore, really.
Okay.
I mean, they never had like the whole storyline of the elves are going to diminish without Mithril and stuff. That's just a fabrication, though. I mean, to be fair, like people get all bent out of shape, but there's not a ton of information about the Second Age either. Like it's not that it's the least robust of the ages in terms of information we have in stories. So that this could fit. The thing is, the elves actually, like the way it works is Anatar comes in, he makes all the other rings with Celebrimbor, and then after that, Celebrimbor makes the 3 elven rings on his own.
Oh.
And Sauron leaves to go make the One Ring to forge all the other rings that he's made with Celebrimbor and distribute it out to the people, the free people of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Like they distribute all of them. So then he goes and makes his One Ring so that he can rule them all. But he doesn't realize that the elves have made their own rings.
Right.
And that's why the elves can still wear their rings, because he doesn't like bind those rings to him because he doesn't even know they exist.
Right. He only binds the ones that he knows about.
Right.
So this is kind of like a little bit out of order.
It is. I'm fine with it, but this is going to drive some lorists a little crazy, I think. What did you think?
It was interesting. The whole time I was trying to figure out, like, obviously I was suspicious of Halbrand, and then you have this side story, sort of, not really a side story, but like the bit with Halbrand and Galadriel when he's in her mind and everything. I actually had a moment when Galadriel went back and she gives him the idea to make 3 and all of this, and I was sitting there and I was like, is this Sauron pretending to be her?
Galadriel is Sauron.
Like I literally had this moment of, because you saw like the white cloak girl kind of, you know, shapeshift, quote unquote, into other people. Yeah. And I was like, can he do this?
It's creepy.
Like, and I was sitting there the entire time. And then especially when Elrond went down and found the scroll and everything, and then he's looking at her funny, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this like, I was just waiting for some crazy reveal, which obviously wasn't the case, but
oh, I like that. I didn't even normally I like think of that sort of thing a lot. I'm always like, I don't trust you. I don't think, but I didn't have a glimmer. That's great. That's cool. It's a good thought.
Yeah, I don't know. She just seemed to be acting different, which, I mean, it does make sense that she would be acting differently afterwards when she goes back, but it felt less trustworthy to me. And then her suggesting to make the 3rd ring, I was like, well, this could be like a sneaky like ploy thing. But I thought the whole process was interesting. It was interesting to see them going back and forth and getting so upset over it, and like so fixated on it and on making them. and being successful with making them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were just done. And they were there.
Yeah, there they were.
I felt a little. I did feel bad that she had to melt her brother's dagger.
I was sad. Yeah, they were like, we need Valinor. So I'm like, you guys are lucky she didn't just like randomly leave it on a log at some point. Just like it's just gone forever a couple centuries ago.
Yeah, it's
He's like, for all I know, it's still on that freaking log. But
it was just so sad to see because like this is such a sentimental thing for her.
yeah, oh no, you're right. You're right. And I felt like this was the best Galadriel episode we've had. Like I feel like the last two were the best. Like her kind of mentoring Theo, and like you can see her in a more vulnerable spot. And now this, I thought those were the two best Galadriel episodes.
Yeah, they were very strong. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I don't know. So it's just kind of weird. I feel like it's an order of operations thing, but I think that there was some of the criticism people are going to have is like, okay, she spent like 1,000 years trying to find Sauron,
Right.
like with one single mind, like to the point that she's really boring because that's the only thing she cares about. And then when she finally discovers Sauron, she's like, let's make rings.
Yeah, that was the thing that is also part of the reason why I was like, is this Sauron as her? Because I was like, why would she suggest to make more?
Yeah.
She seemed kind of against the idea at the start.
Yeah.
So it just felt weird.
So here's what I think. I think that she's like, okay, yep, we found him. We're probably not going to catch him. He's gone. And it's going to disrupt. Like, we need to save the elves first. Like, we need to focus on that. And also, we're going to subvert what he did. Like, so Sauron thinks that 2 rings is what we need. Like, let's make 3. Like, let's because she gave that little speech of like, well, I forget what 1 does, but like 2 will divide, but 3 will have balance. And so that's what they did.
Right.
Yeah, so do you know who gets the rings
No, I don't remember.
eventually? Do you want me to tell you? Was that like a spoiler? I don't feel like it's much of one.
No, I think no, you can tell me.
All right, so I don't know when they get them. So 1 goes to Elrond.
Okay.
1 goes to Galadriel.
Yep.
That one's called Nenya. I always like that one because it's Nenya business. And I don't know. The other 2 have names, but I don't know what they are because that's Nenya, my business. The 3rd one goes to a guy called Círdan, who's Círdan the Shipwright, who has been cast for season 2. He's an elf.
Okay.
And at some point, he meets Gandalf. And in the middle of the 3rd age, and he gives it to Gandalf. So Gandalf actually has the 3rd Elvish ring. But yeah, Círdan will get it, I'm guessing.
I just kind of assumed that 1 would go to Gil-galad.
Yeah. Oh, you would think.
Yeah.
Well, because they were like, oh yeah, a ring or a crown for you,
right,
king or whatever.
Right. So I just kind of assumed that he would get one.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're forged, and then Sauron is just, I guess, headed to Mordor.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was that last scene of him looking pretty evil. He's wearing his like, what you reminded me of a little bit was like when Anakin turns to the dark side before he's, like pre-suit Darth Vader. Like he kind of had that same like look to his face, like that same. I'm angry and evil, and I'm wearing a brown cloak, and
Yep, the same idea.
Yeah.
So, what do you think happens next season?
Well, okay, so So first off, we have a very small thing about Numenor that we should discuss.
Okay, right. Sorry.
Which I thought was actually, I just want to bring it up because it was a really powerful scene. I thought, like with Miriel and gosh, I mix all their names up. And this guy's really important, Elendil. That they have their moment of affirmation with each other of like, and I thought this was actually one of the best parts too. Of she's like, you pay the price no matter what the price is. Like you need to choose, and and they're both like, all right, yeah, we're gonna choose the side of right, whatever that is.
Right. Yeah, choose the good side, so to speak.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Elendil's daughter, who's an original character, is drawing the king, the real king, who eventually dies, but she sees something in the Palantir.
Right.
We have no idea what it is.
Which is, yeah, I was expecting them to show it, and obviously they did not.
I thought they force ghosted him. Like, she's like, help, help, and no one's coming, and she comes back and his bed is just gone. I'm like, oh, it's like Yoda.
Well, it's funny that you had that thought, because my thought when I saw the bed, the sheet was like so perfectly turned over and crisp, and I was like, no one gets out of a bed like that. I'm like, that's not what it would look like.
He like made his bed before he tottered out. Yeah,
so pristinely laid out. I'm like, that's not accurate, especially because he's dying.
He's just very still when he lays there. He doesn't make much of a crease in the sheets.
But that's interesting because she's a whole new, like, she's a made up character.
Yeah, she's an original. I don't know where it's going.
So that'll be very interesting to see.
Well, she was so opposed to going off to Middle Earth. She had the scenes of like trying to persuade Pharazon's son into talking Pharazon into intervening in it, and yeah, not working. She doesn't want it. She doesn't want that war, but she's apparently good at drawing, and now she gets to see something in the Palantir.
And I guess maybe we'll find out in the future.
Sure. But yeah, so they're gonna have to figure out the succession.
Right.
Now, which, okay. I guess she's not going back to Middle Earth for a little bit.
No, she's gonna be staying there for a bit.
Probably. So what do you think is gonna happen in the next season? You asked me, but I want to hear what your thoughts are.
I don't know. Well, I guess the rings will get handed out. There obviously has to be more rings made, so I'm curious how that will come about. And I think that would happen next season as well.
Yeah, I think Sauron is just going to make him himself and send him out.
Yeah.
That's my hunch. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I'm just curious about it. And then, I mean, we're obviously going to see, I would assume we're going to see more with Nori and whoever this wizard is.
Yeah.
And whatever happens when they go to Rune.
Well, good predictions that we're going to just see the same characters.
Thanks so much. Okay. Yes, same characters. But
nailed it.
I'm just trying to figure out like what they're going to do other than make more rings, and Sauron's gonna make more bad guys.
All right. So, do you want me to tell you a couple lore things that could happen?
Sure.
Okay. So once he distributes all the rings, and the elves are like, "Oh shit, Anatar is Sauron." So he sends out those rings, and eventually the rings ensnare the holders, and he gets all the ring wraiths. Like they're for a while they're leaders of men, like the king of Rune, for instance, will get one of them, but eventually he just goes and he becomes Sauron's slave, basically. But and like once those rings are forged, and Sauron is wearing his ring,
Mhm.
he can literally control them. Like he can they're like puppets for him if he wants. That being said, he makes war on the elves
Mhm.
and just totally destroys Eregion. That's the place Celebrimbor is, and kills Celebrimbor, and it's this whole fiasco.
Oh.
Um, and then uh, and then he goes to get, so at that point Elrond has also gone and he's founded Imladris, which is his city, Rivendell.
Mhm.
So he's founded Rivendell, and so Sauron then, after he destroys Eregion, he goes to attack Rivendell, and um, he's totally blindsided by a huge army of dwarves from Khazad-dûm who come and ambush
Nice.
him.
Mhm.
So I think they've laid the groundwork for that perfectly,
Mhm.
honestly. Like what so I think we're gonna see this isn't part of any lore thing because like I've said before, with the Durins, like there isn't Durin 3, the third being this or the father of Durin, the fourth in the lore. But I think we're gonna see a succession war kind of or a
Mhm.
war of, I think Durin's gonna be like, no, like during the fourth is going to be like, all right, I've been enduring your bullshit
Long
enough.
enough.
Yeah, we're done with you,
Mhm.
in with my elf friendly regime. We're going to go save my friend.
Yeah. I yeah, I can see that. I also am really intrigued by Theo. I feel like there is more to him, and there is like I just feel like there's something else we're gonna learn about him. Hey guys, hate to interrupt, but obviously you can see Adam is not here. We unfortunately had crazy technical issues while we were recording. My internet kept cutting out. I could not get it back up. So we could not finish our entire discussion. So unfortunately, it's cut short. But if you do want to hear the rest of what we may have to say about what we are hoping to see in season 2, please join our Discord server and we can talk about it there. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week with a slightly less compacted episode.